Students all across the United States are hearing back from college admissions right now. Some have already gotten accepted, some have been waitlisted, and some have been rejected from their dream schools. Nonetheless, we've all been in the same situation, devoting the 4 long years of high school to stellar grades, unique college essays, and packing resumes with extracurriculars, all for your dream college to be unaffordable.
Each year, college fees increase and higher education becomes more and more unattainable. U.S. News reported that over the last 20 years, universities across the United States have raised their tuition tremendously. Some of these tuition rates have increased by over $20,000. College is becoming a financial burden for most families to bear. It's important to note that tuition fees vary state to state, depending on state funding allocations to public education. But on average, fees have increased disproportionately to adjusted inflation and wage growth. By 2019 to 2020, the total price increased to $28,775. That is a 180% increase. As a result, more and more students are graduating with a mountain of student debt and high interest rates.
Our very own Penn State encounters this issue. Let's take a look at an example. Since 2019, Penn State has raised in-state tuition by a cumulative 15 to 25%. As the graph shows, Penn State, on average, has the highest tuition rates compared to its neighboring schools. Compared with the national average cost of in-state tuition of $11,560, Penn State University Park is nearly double. Subsequently, it leads to substantial post-graduation student loans. In 2022, the average indebtedness of graduating students was $44,008. As possible solutions to this issue amongst universities, especially Penn State, we can implement 3 different approaches. The first being enhancing financial literacy, which focuses on allowing students to make smarter financial decisions with help from the university. The second approach focuses on expanding student aid with clear eligibility criteria. The final approach works on shortening academic years by creating a more major-focused curriculum and pushing college credits in high school. From these effects, students, families, and universities are the stakeholders most directly affected. For students, they are directly impacted by soaring tuition and living expenses, often resorting to loans which can lead to heavy debt burdens. Balancing work and studies become a challenge, affecting academic performance and well-being. For families, primary sources of financial support, they face difficulties affording higher education due to escalating costs, especially with low income or multiple children. They might be forced to make significant sacrifices such as delaying retirement or taking on extra jobs. For the university, they determine tuition rates. They're responsible for providing financial aid and support services to help students afford the education.
One cause of the college affordability crisis could be due to decreased state funding. The Center of Budget and Policy Priorities did a study and found that since the recession, higher education funding has never been the same, with 46 states decreasing in state funding when adjusted for inflation. As a result, this caused exponential college fees. When public colleges have less state and local funding, it is more likely they'll pass costs on to students in the form of tuition increases, according to a 2019 report from the Center of Budget and Policy Priorities. Another cause is student loan debt. It might be easy to be awarded loans for education, but repaying them, especially with interest, is a lifelong challenge. According to the Federal Reserve, the level of outstanding student debt in the United States is $1.75 trillion by the end of 2021. As the following chart shows, the student debt burden has more than tripled over the past 15 years. As a result, 20 years later, even after entering school, half of the student loan borrowers still own $20,000 on each outstanding loan balance. Student loans are becoming unpayable. Additionally, most students don't graduate within 4 years. Contrary to common belief, the government measures graduation rates in increments of 6 years, not 4. The Education Department recorded that fewer than 2/3 of students finish within 6 years, and completion rates are even lower for minority students. As a result, many students end up paying for a college tuition and taking out loans for a much longer time for a bachelor's degree that may or may not be used.
It is important to keep in mind certain criteria when analyzing and deliberating on approaches to the college affordability crisis. Feasibility. It evaluates the practicality and achievability of the proposed solution. It considers factors such as availability of necessary resources, complexity of implementation, and potential barriers. Feasibility can be assessed on a scale of low to high, indicating the level of ease in executing the solution within the certain constraints. Efficacy. It measures the extent to which the solution effectively addresses the identified problem. It examines whether the proposed approach leads to meaningful outcomes and achieves its intended goals. Efficacy can be determined on a scale of low to high, reflecting the degree of effectiveness in solving the underlying issue of college affordability. Sustainability. Sustainability assesses the long-term viability and endurance of the solution. It examines whether the proposed intervention can and maintain its impact over time, considering factors such as scalability and adaptability to changing circumstances. Sustainability can be evaluated on a scale from a short-lived to long-lasting, indicating the solution's ability to endure and provide lasting benefits.
Through this deliberation, we will be able to evaluate and closely analyze the advantages and disadvantages of each approach to tackle the college affordability crisis. It's important to keep in mind a few reminders. Each participant is equal. We should speak to each other, not just the moderator. Keep comments brief so that everyone has a chance to talk. Listening is as important as talking. To fairly consider the pros and cons of each option. And to remember that this is a deliberation, not a debate.